Back in 1971, one article, just one single piece of journalism, blew the lid off a hidden atrocity. And it actually helped change the course of a war. So today, we're going to dive into that incredible report, the story an army desperately wanted to keep buried.
I mean, what a chilling first line, right? This is how Pakistani journalist Anthony Mascarenhas opens his report. It just throws you right into this world where your life or your death could depend on a single split-second decision. And for Abdul Bari, a young tailor, that decision was to run.
Okay, so to really get what's happening here, we need to rewind a bit. We're in East Pakistan, it's 1971. There's a brutal military crackdown going on. But here's the thing, the rest of the world has no idea. The military censors have put up this wall of silence, a total information blackout. The country was basically sealed off. And this is where it gets really ironic. Mascarenhas, he was actually supposed to be part of the propaganda machine. The army invited him and a few other journalists on this, let's call it a guided tour, where they were expected to write puff pieces about how great the military was doing at restoring order. Yeah, well, what he actually saw was something else entirely. And that brings us right back to the story of this one man, Abdul Bari, his terrifying run-in with an army patrol. It's like this one small story that pulls back the curtain and shows you the horrifying reality of what this so-called peacekeeping mission was all about. Listen to this quote from the army major who was escorting the journalist. He says, "They know we are sorting them out, and they betray themselves by running. This says it all, doesn't it? It's their justification for murder. If you run, you're guilty. That's it, an automatic death sentence. No trial, no proof, just suspicion." So let's just walk through what happened to Bari, minute by terrifying minute. He's spotted running. The soldiers grab him, assuming he's a Hindu or a rebel. They actually rip his clothes off to check if he's circumcised, which proves he's Muslim. But even then, even after they confirm he's the very type of person they claim to be protecting, they just keep beating him. The only reason he survived? Pure, random luck that a journalist happened to be right there watching. And that's really the heart of Mascarenhas' report, you know? The absolute horror that Abdul Bari went through. It wasn't some one-off thing. It was a tiny snapshot of this huge, systematic campaign of violence, where the only thing separating life from death was just luck. Now, of course, the army didn't call what they were doing a massacre. No, they had a much cleaner, much more bureaucratic term for it. A chilling euphemism to hide what was really going on. They called it the cleansing process. Sounds almost sterile, right? Administrative. But what it really meant was a license to kill. It was their internal code for a pogrom, a plan to systematically murder specific groups and crush any threat of secession. So who exactly was on their list to be cleansed? Well, it was very specific. They were targeting Hindus, first and foremost, but also university students and teachers, you know, the intellectuals, political opponents from the Awami League, and any Bengali soldiers or police who had mutinied. This wasn't random, it was a hunt for the very heart and soul of the Bengali identity.
And Mascarenhas saw this stuff happening with his own eyes. He writes, "I have seen truckloads of other human targets hauled off under the cover of darkness and curfew." I mean, just picture that. People being rounded up, thrown onto trucks like they're nothing, and just disappearing into the night. This wasn't chaos. This was organized. This was a system.
And the report documents just how casual this brutality was. He tells us one story about a kill and burn mission. The officer in charge, a Major Iftikhar, is basically bragging to him. He talks about finding 12 Hindus hiding in a house, getting them disposed of, his words, and then just starting to burn down their shops. And get this, his only regret, what he was actually upset about, was that it started to rain, which stopped him from burning down the entire town. Just incredible. And this is the result. This is what those punitive actions look like on the ground. Devastation. Whole villages just wiped off the map. The countryside littered with bodies. This was the reality that the government was trying so desperately to keep hidden from the world. So you have to wonder, how did these soldiers, these officers, how did they justify this to themselves? Well, Mascarenhas recorded what they were saying, and it reveals this really disturbing ideology. One major told him, "This is a war between the pure and the impure. Those who are left will be real Muslims." They didn't see it as a political conflict. To them, it was a holy war, a mission to purify the people. I mean, that is the literal language of genocide. And another officer gets even more specific about targeting the Hindu minority. He claims they had completely undermined the Muslim masses, and that East Pakistan was controlled by businessmen in Calcutta. They were painting this picture of a corrupting outside influence that had to be wiped out. It was ethnic and religious cleansing, plain and simple. 2 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. 2 million. That's the number of people that senior officers told Mascarenhas they were prepared to kill to get what they wanted.
They saw it as just the cost of doing business. And that's the absolute key here. What Mascarenhas exposed wasn't just the chaos of war. It was a plan, a deliberate, calculated strategy. One officer even used the term final solution. The goal was to crush the people of East Bengal, to turn it into a colony, and to extinguish their desire for freedom forever.
So, with all this secrecy and brutality, how did this story ever see the light of day? Well, that's what we're going to talk about now. The unbelievable courage of this one journalist, and how his decision changed everything.
Okay, so Mascarenhas knew there was no way he could publish the story while he was still in Pakistan. It would have been a death sentence for him and his entire family. He said he was just overcome by revulsion at what he'd seen, so he made this incredibly brave choice. He quietly moved his family to safety in London, and then he fled to join them, carrying this explosive story with him. And then, on June 13, 1971, this happened. The Sunday Times published his report. And look at that headline, just one word, in massive letters: genocide. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a direct, unflinching accusation. And it was backed up by page after page of his own, first-hand eyewitness accounts. In an instant, all the official propaganda just crumbled to dust. The fallout from this was huge, and it was immediate. This one article completely changed the conversation. It put the truth in front of governments and ordinary people all over the world. It galvanized public opinion, and it was absolutely crucial in building international support for what would soon become the independent nation of Bangladesh.
So, when you look back at this whole story, it leaves you with this really powerful question. Anthony Mascarenhas risked everything. I mean, his career, his home, his life, his family's lives, all to tell a story that he knew the world had to hear. It really makes you think, doesn't it? What is the true cost of bearing witness to something like this? And maybe even more importantly, what is the cost of staying silent?